Hi everyone. So today, in continuation, or rather, I would rather say, just to give a synopsis of what we had discussed over the weeks, I'll try and put it into a format whereby we can work on certain new modules. So I've been working on certain modules right now, and I'll walk you through those modules to be understood for the orchestration of smart contracts, and particularly of DAO. So we'll start in a while, putting myself on mute. If you have any questions, you can put your questions in the comment box below and we'll look into it, maybe during the discussion or after the discussion. So the emphasis would be on, okay, quantum internet applications. So putting myself on mute. Okay, I have a couple of things to be discussed. Let's first um, set the basic right in terms of the understanding of quantum bits. So, quantum bits is also known as qubits. Now, when we're trying to understand that from the orchestration point of view of what are the use case applications of quantum stuff we have been discussing over time. However, I'm not looking into the hardware part of it because hardware itself, it's a very costly affair just to get the prototype ready. However, when we look into the software part of the understanding, and particularly if we are able to deploy the smart contracts, the intention is to develop the use case studies around the same. Few of the use case studies have been developed, submitted. That's in the pipeline, which would be published this month. For the next month, I'm still contemplating as to the use case study around what problem statement we should resolve using the quantum part, and particularly this is not to do with the language utilized for solving or coding the stuff. It is the logic behind it, and the logic itself can be utilized to solve the zillion problems in terms of whatever the problem statements are. And we have taken the core of everything. We are taking blockchain nature as the biggest blockchain. We have talked about it. I even talked about this discussion way back in Singapore, or maybe in 2018, 2019. And in alignment with that understanding, what is important right now is to appreciate the understanding of the systematic affair of the modules. So let's deep dive into this before we start. When we are trying to understand or trying to code in terms of, even if hardware is not a part of it in terms of coding, we should be knowing the classification of the same, which is very important. When we are looking into the classification, we have, which one we should look at is the basic optical elements, that is G0 2b6/122. Then we have, when we are trying to understand artificial eyes. Now, when we're talking about the optical aspect of an invention or trying to understand the optical aspect of the use case study, it comes under A61F2/141, that is artificial eyes. Now, if we are trying to understand the amplitude, frequency, and the modulation and the transmission in various ways, we have G01S17/34 for the arrangement of optical elements related to scanning, because we are talking about artificial eyes here. So scanning would be a part of the whole protocol. That is under G01S7/4817. Learning methods. We talked about supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and the like. However, a broader term or a broader classification for the same is G06N3/08. Now, when we are trying to understand how an artificial eye can be utilized, one of the use case study is in the medical domain. When we are talking about medical domain, we are trying to understand the relationship of the drugs onto the candidate. So candidate here is the subject matter. Subject matter here is a human body. So if we are talking about ICT, particularly utilized for pre-processing patient-related healthcare data for the analysis from the specimen point of view, and particularly looking into the longevity, something which needs to be taken care of is G16H10/40. Then we have for handling prescriptions. There has been a lot of discussion around writing of prescription at the first place. OCR and the others uh, are not working out for the prescriptions because it is said medical doctors have a very bad handwriting, and the answer is yes. Because in the initial years, just the note taking capacity, I remember during my days, the note taking capacity was because I have a very cursive writing. And why I'm talking about it, because it is important to understand that till date, most of the innovations have not done justice to the understanding of the prescription, because many a times a log has to be developed onto the memory of the AI and the others, which is the modules and the submodules. And today I plan to introduce one of the modules I have been researching on, and I just want to see what is the landscape folks have developed around the same. I would be disclosing it in a while, but let's just first go through the tagging part of how it can be done. Okay, for medical images handling and processing, say for example, the editing part also is G16H30/40. Then we have for the facilities and the operations of the equipment and the devices from the remote point of view. So a lot of tech has been developed in terms of how robotic can be introduced, and robotic is being introduced in the healthcare sector in a big way. The point of view right now is first to understand the intricacies involved and what is at stake, because intervention of human is important when we are talking about or trying to understand even the healthcare sector. We cannot leave it onto the machines just for the sake of gathering the data. So this is okay. Remote operation, I talked about G16H60/67. Then for the diagnosis, simulation, and the data mining, we have G16H50/20. Okay. Because some of the paramount stuff right now is two of the things. Okay, let's if I have to talk of the trinity, there are three things. Nature is the biggest blockchain. Second, we have the environmental factors need to be taken into consideration when you're trying to develop protocols around the AI and the like. That is the environment factor. And when I talk about environment factor, it is climatic simulation also. So in a control environment, simulations can be developed around the climate, and for that we have why not 2A90/10, that is ICT supporting adaptation to climatic change for weather forecasting. Okay, I just want to see if they have mentioned this part, the module I want to discuss. I don't see it here. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Or rather, I will try and see it another way around. So, okay. So the term I wish to introduce today from the standpoint view of, I'll just mention it here. For the SC, where the SC is smart contracts. Okay, first of all, we'll just go through the classification in terms of. Okay, there are a couple of ways when we're talking about the online world to push in or to have a recurring income out of the web link. One is, of course, the service which has been provided that has a cost attached to it in terms of a retainer module or retainer service, or it is based on advertisement. They are not many out of the box kind of businesses which can be run using the internet. However, when we're talking about the advertisement creation, that is under the tagline of G06Q30 slash 0276, um, then we are talking about the management and the organization of the content. That is G06F16 slash 958, and protocols based on web technology, that is hypertext transfer protocol, that is H04L67 slash 02. Okay, let's understand this particular module. This is toggle. So toggle itself can be utilized for multitasking a lot of submodules. So this is an interesting hypothesis which has to be put into play, and the intent is to put into play from today itself. I haven't been using toggle for a while in terms of the modulation part, but from today I'll be utilizing it for a couple of stuff which I wish to do in terms of creating the use case studies around the same. Okay, now the toggle is how the toggle can be utilized. It can be utilized to create high transparency. Um, when I say transparency, how toggle is creating transparency, it is providing the option to the candidate. So candidate is the user of the application. And how toggle can be utilized, just a simple tweak itself can just change the overall landscape of the problem statement which is being resolved at the first place. So that is something one needs to look into. um, so this is one thing, but my understanding of the same, I'm just looking into this application. Let me see. I'll move on to the next application. Not very happy with this result. Let's see. Okay, So the intention of discussing this tagging part is to have just a broader view of what can be created. However, the toggle part needs a little bit more research in terms of the use case study. I need to sit with the flow charts and the flow diagrams. Probably I'll do it and particularly try and solve the problem of the environment, because that is something most of the folks are facing right now, and how we can mitigate the risk with utilization of smart contracts in place, so that at least a bit can be reduced by using the quantum part to be understood in a manner whereby we can just use it to change or at least mitigate the SWOT analysis or the risk associated with the current environmental problems. So, one way is to increase the immunity, um, the other way is to mitigate or just kill the germs or the kill the um, pollutants, would be the right word here. And how it can be done, let's see, because the identification has to be in terms of whether it's a bacteria, fungi, viruses, what is the core of the pollutants, and that way we can mitigate the risk. Okay. So this particular classification is utilized for tagging of interaction, and this is G06F3 slash 04817. I want to see in terms of blockchain if I can do so. Let's see. This is not the result which I was looking at, but I'll just give this a synopsis in terms of what if. Just give me a moment. Okay, one last discussion here would be smart contracts and generating smart contracts with the utilization of what we just discussed right now. Um, there's a lot of data right now in terms of all these applications which are being run right now in terms of um, selling or just being a platform to sell whatever they wish to sell in terms of the healthcare items or FMCG sector and the like. Um, there are a lot of constraints in terms of how that data can be churned into a useful data. So that is something we need to look into. And the data format conversion from a database that's under G06F16 slash 258, um, how to distribute the queries among the same is G06F16 slash 2471. Peer-to-peer network, if we have to talk about the distributed file systems, that means multiple systems are working simultaneously. That is G06F16 slash 1834. Okay. This is more to deduct the failure of not the execution part of a determination step, which can be done in multiple ways. We don't have to go in a haphazard manner. A very simple flow diagram and the flow chart will suffice the purpose. Um, Thank you for watching this out. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. So our focus for 2026 first quarter is the DAO, smart contracts, um, the use case studies around the Impula network, and just getting that regulated in the best way possible in terms of the lawmaking bodies. And that's the simple agenda item for 2026, at least the first quarter. Thank you for watching this out. Have a great day or a great weekend ahead.